Hey everyone, it's Chay on the mic. We're going beyond politics. Hope you're psyched. Not just policies, not just plans. We're talking dreams, hobbies, and life's other strands. We'll meet the leaders behind the scenes, uncover the stories in between, the laughs, the quirks, the passions they hide, their personal moments, unfiltered and wide. Ready or not, let's get underway. This is Beyond Politics with Chay. Hi, you're back with Chay from the Oz Arab Media team on another episode of Beyond Politics with Chay, where we delve deep into the lives and personalities of some of our favorite elected leaders. Today, I'm pleased to have Peter Khalil join me on an episode of Beyond Politics with Chay. Peter is the federal member for the seat of Wills in Victoria, Inner North. He is a die-hard Collingwood supporter, born and raised in Australia. He hails from an Egyptian background and is super excited, right, Peter, to be here today. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much, Chay, for having me and to be on Beyond Politics. It's a great thrill. Great to be here with you.
Great. Well, let's get straight into our icebreaker challenge.
Yep.
3 questions. First question, what is one thing that people don't know about you that you'd like to share?
Well, I actually, you mentioned Collingwood Football Club, but I actually got drafted for North Melbourne Football Club when I was young, 16, 17. But you know what, mums are like in the Middle East? She didn't like me playing footy, so she hid the letters. And I didn't even know that I had been drafted for the squad until the coach called me, and then it was too late. I thought it was a mate of mine just playing a prank call on me, and that was the end of my career, the start and the end of my AFL career. I didn't talk to Mum for a while, but then I forgave her after all. She was worried, Lana Yani, and didn't want me to get injured.
I don't know whether to cry or smile. So heartwarming, and I think it's a shared gene for any Middle Eastern mum to care for their first son and daughter. So thank you for sharing, and please give our best regards to your mum as well.
I will.
What is one compliment you receive all the time?
Oh, definitely how good looking I am. No, I'm only joking. That doesn't happen at all. Actually, very rarely. I think the one compliment that it's really cool is that, and when I talk to people, they show a sense of appreciation. Like if I've helped them or their families to have a better life or help them with a problem as part of my work. And that compliment, which is like, we really want to thank you for the work that you did for us. That to me is very, very, very good. It's satisfying. It shows that you've actually done something positive.
A nice reflection, obviously, of all the work that you and the team do.
Yeah.
Okay, a more creative question now. If you could introduce one feature to a smartphone, whether that be an iPhone, Android, what would that be and why?
Definitely an automatic switch off feature. So you can't change it. It just switches off after 2. If you limit 1 hour, 2 hours of internet, and then it switches off and you're not allowed to look at it anymore. Go for a run.
That's a very
walk, read a book.
I receive. It must be like this political kind of ask from everyone that I've actually interviewed. It's either a sleep, snooze, or a pause button. I think I've also had like a transcript app.
Well, that's a good one. Yeah.
Supportive. Okay. Looking into your childhood now, you've shared with us, obviously, a very brief insight into your family life. Share with us your childhood, where you grew up, and some of those influences that inspired you to enter a life in politics.
Well, Mum and Dad came from Egypt and they migrated from Egypt. We grew up in what we call the Housing Commission down here in Victoria. I'm not sure what it's called in Sydney. We were houseos, but it gave us a roof over our head, basic dignity. And they worked, I mean, this is a common story, Chay. Most migrants, they worked really hard to give my sister and I a better life and a future. And they were big on education. Get a good education. You always got to study. We want you to get the best out of yourself, whatever you do. Get a degree and then you can choose whatever you want to do in your life. And I think the really thing that was shaping me the most, and I didn't realize it at the time, is that even though they were going through such obstacles, such difficulties, including prejudice, including, forms of discrimination, they always used to say to me, we're so fortunate that we have a life here in Australia. We've left a place where there was great difficulty and war and persecution, and we give something back to the country that's given us such an opportunity, even though they were going through such difficulties. And I thought later when I grew older, I thought, wow, that really had an impact on me as far as my upbringing and the idea to have integrity and to make a contribution to the community around you and to the public life was I think a really strong shaping element in my childhood.
Thank you for sharing, Peter. And I'm sure a lot of our viewers will share that same story and gratitude for our homeland here in Australia. Delving deeper now into your childhood, if you could share a story perhaps that was a key motivator for you entering life into politics or an inspiration, what would that be?
Well, I remember my year 9 teacher, and teachers are amazing, by the way. They have such an impact on you. I don't want to embarrass him. His name was Mr. Sestito, and he introduced me to politics in year 9. And he was so passionate about it and so excited about it. And he was a bit of a tragic around, this was the period of Bob Hawke and so on. And so that really, I think, influenced me to get excited about politics and what the possibilities and the potential of politics was. So some 30 years later or 25 years later, I was the foreign policy advisor for Prime Minister Kevin Rudd. And my first day in the Prime Minister's office, I got my EA to call the staff room of my old high school and ask for Mr. Sestito, who's still working. And he came on the phone and he was all excited. And he's like, "Oh, Peter, I've been following you." And I said, "Oh, Mr. Sestito." He said, "Just call me Ray." I said, No. I call you Mr. Sestito. I can't. And I just said 2 things. One, I apologize for being so naughty in class in year 9 and giving you a nervous tick. And 2, and I got serious and I said, I want to thank you because I wouldn't be here in the Prime Minister's Office of Australia if it wasn't for you. And there was a pause and I think he was crying and I had a tear in my eye. And that is a profound impact that great teachers can have on your life.
A beautiful story again. And the backbone of our society, especially coming from a non-English speaking background, having that support throughout school, whether that be in public or private education.
Right.
Okay, Peter, there's a passion and a talent segment part of this show.
Oh.
Share with us either a passion, something that you love, or a talent, something that you're good at that would surprise people if they knew.
Well, I really love science fiction. I know that sounds strange, but I haven't got that much time to read, but I love reading science fiction books and the idea around how technology changes our lives and the speculation about the future and the way that the world can evolve and so on. So I've always found that really interesting. And so in a weird kind of way, a lot of the science fiction I read when I was younger is sort of catching up with us now with AI and with the advance in technology. And I'm very passionate. Apart from football, I used to play tennis a lot. I love the sport of tennis. So I played a fair bit myself. I sort of semi-professionally. I played in Europe for a bit I played the Australian Open Juniors. I never made it like Roger Federer or anything like that, but it's a great sport to play even when you're older. You can keep playing, and now I play with my kids. I
can see that theme, that sporting talent must be something from the family, first with Aussie rules and tennis. Well, so congratulations.
Mo Salah, who's Egyptian, he's the best footballer in the world for Liverpool. So it runs in our genes, right? Yanni.
Of course, coming from an Egyptian. Look, now, I really do thank you for sharing that. You've given us a great insight into your life, your upbringing, and your family. On a more policy-related discussion, let's look into your role on the Parliamentary Committee recently and your new role as a special envoy for social cohesion. Now, let's start with your previous role. You served on that committee for over 3 years, one of the country's most powerful committees, Security and Intelligence Committee. Share with me your motivation and support for this work.
Yeah, it was a great privilege to be chair of the Intelligence Security Committee of Parliament. It is one of the most powerful committees. And I think the work is so important because it helps shape the security and intelligence agencies, make sure they're doing their work to protect Australians from any threats, whether they be cyber threats or other threats. But also it was so important in making sure that we maintain the security, the stability, and the prosperity, which are our national interests for Australians and Australia's role in the world. So it was a great opportunity. I got to travel a bit as well and meet with counterparts with other countries around the world, and really doing the work to make sure Australians are protected and our national interest is protected. And so it was a great privilege to do that role.
Thank you. Now, focusing on parliamentary committees, explain their importance to the formation or development of public policy in Australia, and perhaps why they are so distinct from different branches of government?
Yeah, it's a really good question, and a lot of people don't know about this. I'm glad you asked it, because parliamentary committees kind of work in the background. People don't, they're not so exciting that they're on the nightly news. I mean, when you see Parliament on the news, it's just question time of politicians shouting at each other. But what actually happens in the committee process is that you get members of Parliament from every background, from every party and independent and so on, and they're tasked with working together to come up with recommendations around particular laws or changes of law or policies that they put to the executive. And they're separate from the ministry and the executive and the government. They're part of the parliament, and they play a really important role, because members of those committees have to work together to find a consensus, to push forward ideas that are in the national interest, to in good faith work together to come up with the best solutions or suggest the best solutions for government to improve our laws. And they do really, really important work. And, I think it's true to say that most of the committee members, regardless of their political background, go into it with good faith and good intent. There's going to be disagreement, no doubt, but there's good faith and good intent to try and achieve the best outcomes for the national interest and for our communities. And that's why the committee process is so important.
Did you want to share more with our viewers about the committee process? Firstly, because these committees are so important to the formation of public policy development.
Yeah. Well, they do it. The interesting, there's a lot of work where there are public hearings where committees will actually have consultations with stakeholders across the community. And these are actually broadcast, these public hearings, where experts and community members can make written submissions to the committee if they're looking at a particular law, or they can come to the public hearings. There are deliberations that are done with stakeholders across the country. So you're trying to draw the best experience and expertise from across the board, across Australia and sometimes internationally as well, to help us better make recommendations in the report on that particular law. So, some of the reports that we've done have been quite wide-ranging, but for example, on critical infrastructure or protecting our critical infrastructure, how do we best protect our critical infrastructure, whether it be in the cyberspace or whether it be our water resources or whatever it might be from attacks or threats. Drawing on that expertise through the committee process gives a really diverse perspective and information that can help us put to the government the recommendation that will make those laws better and strengthen those protections. So it is a thorough process. It's an important process. It doesn't make the news every night, but it shows that the democratic system can work very effectively through something like the parliamentary committee process.
Yeah, definitely. Look, you've touched on it before in your response. How do committees balance the need for bipartisan collaboration, so collaboration between different political parties toward a common goal, and still defending and obviously supporting interests of the public?
Yeah, that's the balance, isn't it? And it's a good question, Chay, because you'll have different party members on these committees from different sides of the aisle. And as I said, there's a good faith effort on the whole to go into that, seeking to find an outcome together. But that doesn't mean there's not disagreement. There's ideological difference. There's difference in the way that we think things should be executed or put together. The manner in which you apply laws and so on. And so it's a process of navigating through that difference with good intent to try and find the best outcomes. Now, we don't always agree. Sometimes some committee members might write and by the way, sometimes we don't even always agree on the same party, by the way. People have different views, each individual MP. So that's a good thing, though. That's a good thing because it brings in different perspectives and different ideas. And sometimes when it doesn't reach absolute agreement or majority agreement, that sometimes there's a minority report or views that are counter to the majority of the report. That's part of the process as well. I think the main thing is, when we go in there with our responsibility, why are we doing what we're doing? We're doing it so we can actually help Australians have a better life, create the structures and the laws in place to protect Australians and their interests and so on. If that's your sort of guiding star and you can stick to that, you can navigate through many of those differences and hopefully reach consensus on most of the issues.
Great view. Thank you, Peter. Looking at the changing needs of society, how do parliamentary committees ensure they keep that focus on the public policy debate, but also looking at the changing needs of society?
Well, they play the committees play an important role because, as I said earlier, they reach out to the public, to stakeholders, to engage with them. Submissions come in right across the public. Sometimes we get hundreds and hundreds of written submissions and public submissions about particular policy areas. And I think that is important because the democratic process needs to be able to be reflective of the people that it represents. And this is one of the ways that it does that. In my new role, I don't know if you're going to ask me about that, but the new role as social cohesion special envoy, that's also important in the sense of engaging with the public about how we can navigate our differences, not just in the democratic process, but in public as well. So, people say, what's social cohesion? Well, it can be quite broad, but the working definition is how individuals or members of the community or within organizations engage with each other, even if there is disagreement, and navigate that difference peacefully and respectfully. That's where you get harmony and cohesion. Doesn't mean you agree on everything. It means when you do disagree, you're able to navigate that difference and that disagreement in a peaceful way. And it doesn't resort to hate speech or vilification or attacking someone because of their ethnic identity or their faith identity or their sexuality, or worse, doesn't cross over into violence, because that breaks down the structures of society as well. So cohesion is all about how we can build the skills to engage with each other in a peaceful way, even when we disagree, especially when we disagree. And that's part of the role that I've been involved with in the past year or so.
So you did beat me to it. That was my next question.
I'm sorry.
You're the special envoy for social cohesion. Let me rephrase that then a little bit. Let's focus on social cohesion. So previously, in a previous life, there was racism. There's a lot of talk now on hate crimes. How is social cohesion different? And what role does the government play in promoting social cohesion?
Yeah, well, as I said, cohesion is more than just about our multicultural system or a multicultural society. We have a multi-ethnic, multi-faith, pluralistic society, which is really remarkable in Australia. We've lived in relative harmony. There are some tensions, obviously, but we've lived in relative harmony for many decades, and that's because of the commitment of generations of Australians to this. So government plays an important role in providing the support for individuals in society and community members to engage with each other in that peaceful way, in that respectful way, provide support for those communities, pushes back against racism or discrimination through the laws that we pass. But the commitment to social cohesion is much broader in the sense that government can sanction behavior at the sort of worst end of it, whether it's hate speech or racism. But really the commitment has to come from everyone in society, whether it's business leaders, corporate sector, academia, sporting bodies, local community groups, individuals. When they model behavior like reaching out to someone and engaging in a peaceful way, even if they disagree vehemently on something, they're sending a ripple effect out, which actually is what cohesion is about in our society. And the more people do that, the more ripple effects there are, and the more model behavior there is that demonstrate we can live together despite our differences in a peaceful and respectful way. That it's really ultimately the fundamental foundation of social cohesion in our society. It requires us to commit to it as individual citizens, as members of our society, to make that effort and model that behavior for others as well.
Definitely a very important chapter of Australia's current and future, and hopefully something that we can really focus on even post the election. So thank you for sharing, Peter. That wraps up my policy-focused discussion today, and you've given us a really good insight into the role and value of parliamentary committees. Let's now go into our rapid fire section. So I'm changing it up.
I'm nervous.
Yes,
I'm
you
nervous.
should take 5 questions.
Be
The
nervous.
first thing that comes to mind, starting with the first question, you already kind of touched on it before, not putting words in your mouth either. What is your favorite film and why?
Blade Runner, the director's cut.
Nice.
Because it's a great science fiction movie, and it actually touches on artificial intelligence and androids and what it means to be human. And it's a really kind of prophetic in some respects because we're dealing with the advance of AI now. It was 1982, that movie.
Very nice. Classic. Okay. Favorite song?
Probably Corduroy by Pearl Jam. It's a bit old for you, Shay. This is like grunge in the 90s.
Yeah, but I'm seeing a really, really detailed insight into the office life there. Perhaps Steph or one of your advisors would have that ready. Okay. Favorite meal?
Mulachia
Ah, an Egyptian dish.
Egyptian.
No, it's actually one of mine
Mulachia
as well.
with chicken.
That me too. No, I think it's traditionally made with duck, is it not?
You can have it with duck. You can have it with chicken. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's made. It's actually a very healthy stew for anybody out there that wants to try it. It's Egyptian in origin, and it's
Yes.
very good for you.
And the plant used to grow on the banks of the Nile. Thousands of ancient Egyptians used to eat it, cut it up and eat it. It looks a bit like marijuana, but it's not.
It's not very healthy.
It's much healthier.
Okay, favorite cafe. It could be in your local area. It could be anywhere around the world.
Oh, I've got to say, my local cafe here I love is Zartat, which are the couple of guys from a Lebanese background have a cafe called Zartat, and it has delicious Lebanese food. And I have to admit, Lebanese food is better than Egyptian food. But for all the Lebanese that are watching, you win.
Not paid or sponsored content. Definitely thank you for that. But I won't lie, mohia is actually one of the most. It's got a very distinct flavor, but a
Yes.
very, very nice dish once you get used to that. Okay, and the last book that you've read?
Oh, I read Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. Marcus Aurelius was a Roman emperor, and he actually wrote a personal journal of his thoughts on leadership and life and everything. It's fascinating.
Any key takeaways that you could share?
About the book, yeah, he was a stoic, so he was all about trying to stay focused in the moment and not to allow yourself to be drawn into the results or the outcomes of the way that people treat you. You just focus on how you behave to others, and that's what you can control.
Okay, and before we wrap up and I leave our audiences with time for you to share your best contact details, are you able to share a personal mantra or
Personal mantra?
Audience? Yes.
I love this. There's a poem called If by Rudyard Kipling, and one of the lines is, if you can meet with triumph and disaster and treat those two imposters just the same. But what that really means is, like Mr. Miyagi said in Karate Kid, win, lose, no matter. Focus on the moment, focus on the process, focus on what you can control, and try and be the best that you can be in that moment. Everything else will take care of itself. And you stay focused on you and what you can do, and the compassion and the way that you treat others is so important. That's probably the best mantra that I can share.
Well said, Peter. Thank you so much. For everybody watching, please don't forget to like and share this episode of Beyond Politics with Chay. We've gotten a really good insight into Peter's life and his personality. I'm going to hand over to Peter now, who's going to share his best contact details.
Oh, yes.
Thank you, Peter.
Thank you, Shay. If people need to contact me, I don't know if you can see it on that card, but my probably the best is the social media. Just to go to Peter Khalil MP on Facebook and Instagram and TikTok and so on. You can check that out, or you can email me on peter.khalil.mp@aph.gov.au.
Thank you, Peter.
Thank you, Shay. Shukran.